It's easy to trust what looks familiar. The soft lighting, the cozy furniture, the scent of fresh linens, everything designed to convince you that you've chosen the right place. You tell yourself it's safe because you booked it, because you paid for it, because there's a face and a name attached to it. The illusion begins the moment you unlock the door, and it's convincing enough that you never think to question it. You place your bags by the wall, kick off your shoes, and settle into the comfort of a stranger's space. It feels like home. But it isn't. The illusion of safety is quiet. It hides behind small things, the hum of the refrigerator, the flicker of a lamp, the gentle echo of your own footsteps on the floor. It's in the confidence you feel when you check the locks before bed and tell yourself that's enough. It's in the comfort of closing your eyes, believing nothing bad could happen in a place this ordinary. That's how fear works best. Not through chaos, but calm. Because the calmer you feel, the less you see what's really there. You don't notice how still it is until it's too late. You don't question the faint click of something metal outside your door or the slight creak that travels through the ceiling like a whisper. It doesn't register as danger. Not yet. The human mind likes patterns, routine, predictability. So when something falls out of place, you rationalize it, the heater, the wind, old pipes, anything but what it really might be. Because the truth doesn't fit the story you've already told yourself, that this place is safe. The illusion grows stronger in isolation. You're surrounded by walls that aren't yours, doors you didn't build, windows that might not lock the way they should. But you accept it because everyone else does. You scroll through reviews from people who claim they slept peacefully here, who never saw or heard a thing. Maybe they didn't, or maybe they didn't stay long enough to notice what hides in the quiet hours after me. The hours when the illusion begins to fade. Fear doesn't rush in like a scream. It drips in slowly, in moments that feel too subtle to matter. A light left on that you're certain you turned off. A drawer open an inch wider than before. A faint, rhythmic sound coming from the vent. The kind of sound that seems to stop when you focus on it. You remind yourself that everything's fine, that you're just tired, that you're overthinking. And maybe you are, but maybe you're not. The illusion of safety is powerful because it's built on trust, the most fragile thing we have. We trust strangers with keys, with access to where we sleep, where we dream, where we're most defenseless. And once that trust is broken, even slightly, it never truly comes back. You start to see every shadow differently, you start to listen harder. Because when you realize safety was never real, you can't unlearn it. There's something unnerving about being alone in a place that should feel familiar. The furniture is arranged just right. The lights hum softly, and the scent of cleaning supplies lingers in the air. It feels normal, comfortable even. But that's what makes it worse. You're surrounded by everything that tells your mind you're safe, while something deep inside insists you're not. It's the kind of silence that doesn't rest. It listens. Isolation in familiar settings doesn't hit you all at once. It builds slowly, the way darkness seeps into a room when the sun goes down. You notice it in moments, when the laughter of the day fades, when your phone's battery dies, when the house settles into stillness. You can hear every sound now, the tap of water in the pipes, the faint hum of a light bulb, your own breathing. You realize how strange it is to hear yourself so clearly in a space that isn't your own. That's when it starts to feel wrong. Not dangerous, just off, like the air is heavier than it should be. It's easy to feel lonely in the woods or in an abandoned building. That kind of isolation. But when it's inside a warm, modern home, one with soft rugs, streaming passwords, and framed photos of smiling people you've never met, it crawls under your skin differently. You're not supposed to feel uneasy in a place like this, and yet, every object feels like it's watching you back. The chair in the corner, the reflection in the window after dark, the hallway that seems longer at night than it did during the day. You can't explain it, but it's there, that quiet sense that something knows you're alone. The more you try to relax, the more the house feels alive. You start to notice patterns in the sounds, a soft click from the kitchen every few minutes, the faint vibration of a floorboard behind you when you turn off the TV. You tell yourself it's just the house settling because that's what people say. But why does it always seem to settle after you move, not before? The normalcy becomes the disguise, the perfect cover for what doesn't want to be foul. There's comfort in routine, but routine also blinds you. You brush your teeth, check the locks, pull the curtains, and slip under the covers. Everything feels scripted. Yet the air doesn't feel the same. You keep glancing at the door, wondering why the shadow beneath it seems wider than before. You know you're alone. You keep telling yourself that. But it doesn't help, because being alone isn't always the problem. Sometimes it's realizing you might not be. Isolation in familiar settings is a quiet kind of horror. The kind that whispers instead of screams. It waits for you to let your guard down, to mistake stillness for safety. And by the time you start to understand what's wrong, the walls feel closer, the silence sharper, and you can't tell anymore if you want to leave, or if something's already keeping you there. Fear doesn't always need blood to leave a mark. Sometimes it hides in the quiet spaces, in the pause between breaths, in the way the mind fills silence with NGS that aren't there. The human brain is built to seek patterns, to find reason in noise, but when something doesn't make sense, when logic starts to bend even slightly, that's when unease begins to crawl in. It's not about what you see, it's about what you think you saw, and the way that thought refuses to leave. Psychological fear lingers longer than gore ever could. It doesn't shock you, it haunts you. It waits until you're alone, until the world is still, and then it reminds you of that sound you couldn't explain, that reflection that didn't quite match your movement. You tell yourself there's nothing there, but your body doesn't believe you. Your pulse stays uneven, your breath stays shallow, and even when you try to sleep, your mind replays that single moment on a loop. That's the difference. Gore ends when the scene fades. Unease doesn't. You start noticing details that shouldn't matter. The subtle rhythm of footsteps behind you when you walk down an empty hallway, the faint shift of shadows where there shouldn't be any, the whisper of your name that could have been the wind, or maybe not. There's no proof in that. That's the problem. You can't confront what you can't confirm. So instead, your mind turns inward, questioning itself, feeding on its own uncertainty. It's a slow unraveling, a quiet breakdown disguised as rational thought. That's what makes it powerful. Fear built on imagination doesn't need to show you a monster. It lets you build one yourself, and the one you build will always be worse, because it knows you. It knows what unsettles you most, what memory still stings, what feeling you've tried hardest to forget. It digs through that, shaping itself into something personal. No scream, no violence, just presence. The sense that something knows you're afraid and chooses to stay just out of reach. There's a moment right before you fall asleep, when your body feels weightless and your thoughts begin to blur. That's when the mind is most fragile. That's when the unease finds its way in. You imagine footsteps in another room. You imagine a shadow shifting in the corner. You tell yourself it's nothing. You always do. But the moment you open your eyes and nothing's there, it doesn't comfort you. It makes it worse. Because if nothing's there, then why does the feeling remain? Gore is easy to understand. It's visible, tangible, temporary. But psychological fear, it's an echo. It stays behind long after the lights come back on. It doesn't leave a stain on the floor, but on the mind. You can't wash it away or turn from it. It's patient. It waits. Because once it's found a place inside your thoughts, it doesn't need to chase you anymore. You'll bring it with you wherever you go. Real fear doesn't hit like a scream. It arrives quietly, almost politely, slipping into moments that feel harmless. It starts with something small, a sound you can't place, a light that flickers once, a door that feels a little heavier than before. You notice it, but you don't react. You tell yourself it's nothing. That's how it begins. The mind pushes it aside because it wants the world to make sense, and fear has no place in reason. But deep down, something starts to shift. Gradual realization is the cruelest kind of horror. It doesn't shock you, it teaches you, slowly, patiently, like the world around you has been waiting for you to notice what's been wrong all along. You begin to see the details you missed before. A faint scuff on the floor that wasn't there yesterday. A smell that doesn't belong. The soft hum of something electrical when every device is turned off. You keep explaining it away, clinging to logic like a shield. But logic starts to sound less convincing the more you repeat it. You try to focus on other things, but your senses betray you. The air feels different, heavier. Your reflection doesn't quite meet your eyes the way it used to. When you move through the space, there's a subtle resistance, like the air LF doesn't want you there. You hesitate before entering certain rooms, not because of what's inside, but because of what might be waiting in the quiet just beyond the doorway. You start to feel watched, not by eyes, but by something unseen, something that knows your every move before you make it. The realization doesn't come all at once. It builds in fragments like pieces of a puzzle you never wanted to finish. You begin to recall small things you ignored. The host's odd smile, the strange way the key turned in the lock, the echo of footsteps you brushed off as your own. Each memory fits into place, forming a picture you can't look away from. The truth becomes undeniable, but you can't quite say it out loud, because speaking it would make it real. And once it's real, there's no undoing it. By now, you're no longer sure what's safe. The familiar looks foreign. The comfort you felt when you arrived is gone, replaced by a cold awareness that every sound matters. You check the locks, Gain, not because you think it'll help, but because it gives your hand something to do. The silence stretches thin, fragile, waiting to break. And when it finally does, when you hear that one sound that doesn't belong, that proof you can't ignore, it's almost a relief, because at least now you know. You were right to feel uneasy. You were right to listen to that quiet part of yourself that never stopped whispering, "Something's wrong here." The realization may come slow, but when it does, it doesn't let go. It settles deep inside you, where even silence can't drown it out. Some endings don't feel like endings at all. They arrive softly, without answers, without relief. The story stops, but something in you keeps turning, searching for a thread that isn't there. You want resolution, a reason, a truth, something to hold on to, but all you're left with is silence. That's what makes uneasy closure so powerful. It doesn't scream, it lingers. It leaves you staring into the dark long after. The lights have come back on, wondering what you missed. When fear finally passes, it never really goes away. It hides behind the smallest details, the way a door shuts too quietly, or how a shadow clings a second too long before fading. You tell yourself it's over, that it's done, but deep down, you know better. Closure implies understanding, and what truly unnerves us most is the absence of it. You can't explain what happened, you can't reason it away. And that uncertainty seeps into everything you do. You move on, or at least you pretend to. You go back to work, to conversation, to routine. But small things start to pull you back. A familiar sound, a smell that doesn't belong, a passing shape that makes your stomach tighten before your mind can catch up. That's the echo of it, the reminder that some experiences don't end cleanly. They leave residue. They wait quietly just beneath the surface of your day, waiting for night to fall again. You might tell others about it, but whoa, RDs never seem to fit. The details feel wrong when you speak them out loud, like they've been rearranged without your permission. People nod politely, offer explanations that don't feel right, bad wiring, exhaustion, coincidence. You agree because it's easier that way, but when you're alone again, the unease returns, heavier now, because part of you starts to believe that maybe it's not over, maybe it never was. What makes an ending uneasy isn't what happened, it's what could still be happening. It's the thought that somewhere beyond your reach, the same story continues without you. Maybe that door still opens by itself. Maybe that voice still whispers when no one's there to listen. Maybe the place you left behind hasn't forgotten your name. You try to shut it out, to convince yourself that distance means safety. But fear doesn't care about distance, it remembers. Uneasy closure isn't about shock or terror. It's about the slow, gnawing truth that some things don't resolve, not see completely. You can change locations, change habits, change the way you think about it, but something remains. It's the silence before sleep, the pause before you turn off the light, the faint sense that if you listened closely enough, you might still hear it. And maybe that's the real ending, not when the story stops, but when you finally realize it isn't meant to stop at all. Some horrors don't end in screams. They end in stillness, in quiet, in knowing that whatever happened could happen again,